All right, folks, you're in tune to the radio show with Mark Lee. We're going to try to bring in Dean Botha and talk to him about some things that are going on in South Africa with the music scene and things of that nature. So definitely we'll hopefully have an engaging conversation with him. We are having some technical difficulties, so we're going to see what's going on with that and get along with the conversation of what's happening in the world and things of that nature. We do know that a number of schools around the area are doing computer logins and they're having all kinds of issues around their computer logins. So maybe that's what's going on with me as well. Because we did know that today was a day of busy school sessions and computer logins and digital high fives have replaced school bus rides and hugs for many North Carolina students and teachers at the start of this new school year. So a lot of folks are trying to get used to this new normal, the new virtual realities and all of that. So more than two-thirds of the state's 1.5 million public school students held their first day of class on Monday online instead of getting in-person instruction. It's a situation that will last for at least 2 months for many schools and potentially longer if the coronavirus pandemic doesn't lessen. And we do know that throughout the world, there are a lot of reports that things are still having some very difficult problems and things of that nature. Some students reported problems logging online today into the state's NC Ed Cloud computer system, which prevented them from accessing their classes. The problem was eventually fixed. So we're hoping that those things get fixed and all of that kind of stuff. So we are looking for folks to have repairs and things along those natures. So the glitch was felt in Durham County. Wake County didn't report major computer issues, but occasional issues still occurred. So definitely some of the students were saying that it was kind of annoying and that they definitely messed up and that there was lags and things of that nature. So even school kids are noticing about lags. The majority of school districts, including Wake, Durham, Johnston, Orange, Chatham, and Franklin counties, and Chapel Hill, Carborough, are starting the school year with only remote instructions. School leaders there say it's not yet safe to resume in-person instruction. So a number of folks are having to learn about how to do that virtual kind of learning. Some districts, including Moore and Person counties, are bringing students back for face-to-face classes for the first time since Governor Roy Cooper ordered schools to close in mid-March to try to slow the spread of COVID-19. So schools that are resuming face-to-face classes are following new state requirements such as doing daily temperature checks and mandating, that's right, Mark, get the words out right, mandating that students and staff wear face coverings. So we do have that going on. They're asking them to wear the face coverings and all of that. Even in reopened schools, most students won't go on campus every day. They'll get a mix of in-person and online classes to help schools meet social distancing requirements and limit how many people can ride buses and be on campus. The absence of face-to-face classes isn't easy, they say, on teachers, students, and parents. And many students and many teachers are saying that they would much rather be there in person and things of that nature. But of course, a lot of folks also want to be safe. And we do know that a number of the teachers are in that age range of probably being 40s, 50s, 60s, and some of the age ranges that people are even more concerned about. So that is definitely a concern. Says students are mainly using the first 2 weeks back to provide orientation activities to help students get used to operating in the new online environment. Unlike the online classes used in the spring, schools will be taking attendance and grade students for work done in the new school year. So definitely folks are going to have to get used to this new normal with things of that nature. And of course, school leaders are asking families to show patience and to give schools grace as classes begin. So they definitely did not expect it to be 100% all solid and all of that. So they were expecting some sort of problems to exist. So that's what they were expecting, and they have definitely got that. So we're going to see how things are going. So definitely along those lines, we're going to see if we can bring on our guest. If not, I might have to put on some music while I reach out to my other person that is my engineer and everything. So we're going to see if we can actually hear from Dean and everything. I see he's got his mute button on right now. So I think his mute button is on. So there we go. So Dean, can you hear me? Are you able to have communication? So he Well, I can't hear him, but it's like this whole thing going on. We cannot figure out what's going on. It's a mystery going on, what's happening there. But Dean is definitely there. We see Dean there, so we know that he is live and in person. So we're going to try to figure this whole thing going on and everything. I'm going to reach out to my engineer and see if he can't figure out why we can't get Dean live and in person and get that lovely voice and that great smile, because I see that he's got the smile going. That's what happens when you're newly married and all of that, because he just told me that he had recently got married and got the ring showing and all of that. So we're going to see if we can't have a conversation with him about this new life of his and all of that. So I'm going to reach out to Ankit, my engineer. I might put on some Rosie Ledette in the meantime, just so the folks can have some music to groove to while we try to figure out what's going on and why we can't hear what's happening. So we're going to put on some Rosie Ledette music in the meantime. So I'm going to let folks have a little bit of a musical interlude while we try to figure out what's going on in that category. So definitely I'm going to put that on right now, and also reach out to Ankit to see if we can't figure out why things are happening that that he can hear me, but I cannot hear him. So we're going to try to figure this whole thing out and see if Ankit can't come to the rescue, either Ankit or Kim or one of our other great engineers that are going on here on a regular basis. But in the meantime, we're going to give you a little bit of Rosie Ledette and what she's got going on. So definitely keep that in mind. You know, we love providing some great sounds and things of that nature. So we're going to put on some Rosie Ledette right now and let y'all check that out while we try to figure out what's happening with the world that's going on. So we're definitely going to keep that going and keep things rolling along. So while we have Rosie doing her jamming and all of that, then we will try to figure out what's happening on our end. Yeah, we're still rocking that sounds. So
If I don't give you what you want, then I'll give you something better. If I don't give you what you want, then I'll give you something better. Oh, baby, so much more than what you asking for. Oh, baby, so much more than what you asking for. If I don't give you what you want, then I'll give you something better. If I don't give you what you want, then I'll give you something better. Do it for me, do it for me. That's right, that's right. I'ma do it for you, do it for me. That's right, that's right. Something better, so much better, something better, so much better. Do it for me, do it for me. Just one, that's right. Do it for me, do it for me. Just that's right.
Working hard at this. Let's do that. Let's try to go pretty hard. That's all the heat coming out. How about a hand for yourself?
all right, folks, we're hoping that we're going to get Dean on at some point or another. I know he's trying to experiment and things along those lines. So we're hoping that we're going to hear his lovely voice after a while so he can talk to us about the music scene and things of that nature. So definitely sounds like he may be able to be heard. So let's see if we can't test Dean now. Dean, can you speak and say something, and we'll say hello and things along those lines. So I'm not hearing anything, so we're testing Dean. And Dean, Ankit, we're going to bring Ankit on. We'll just have Ankit talk directly. So, hey, Ankit, how's it going there? So we're trying to figure out what's going on. Things are a mystery, left and right. So we're going to try to figure that out.
Just wrap up the Economic Monday show, and then we are here to support Dean. I think Dean, I can hear you.
With me?
1, 2, 3, Dean.
Hold on a second.
Can you hear me?
I need to switch up there.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hold on.
You can hear me?
How's it going?
Yeah. Say something.
I can say whatever you want me to say. I'm here. I'm ready. I'm all excited.
Tell us what you do, where are you from, and what do you do nowadays during COVID?
Can you hear me though?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Okay, we've tried everything outside. I've got my technician / wife here trying to sort everything out as well.
That's why I'm here for rescue.
There we go. That's exactly
Directly from India.
That's exactly why. Hi guys, thank you so much for having us on the show. Yeah, so happy to be here. It's been a work in progress. How's everyone? No, Mark, now
I
yours is on.
understand. I met you through Alexandria and all of that. So I understand that you are now a married person. You flashed the ring earlier, so you'll have to flash that ring once again so folks can see that you have got the marriage on and all of that. So tell us first about the organization that you're with, and also tell us about that lovely bride of yours as well.
All right, cool. Well, Mark Lee, thanks so much for having me on the show. My name is Dean Coard Her. It's spelt Denny or Dene, but it's not. It's pronounced Dean. It's my mom kind of messing with me from day one. I run a program here in South Africa, as well as in Kenya and the UK, and hopefully in the US soon, called Pride Factor. We inspire, guide, and mentor young people to go on and live their ultimate lives in any way, shape, or form. We try and promote success as much as we can, and success, of course, being either the wealth, health, abundance, or basic success mindset. So that's our job. We've been working for 6 years in South Africa. We've worked with about 58,000 young people. And we're looking forward to launching globally. Other than that, I found love in lockdown, or I've always had the love, but we made it official last week, Friday, in a quiet little ceremony here in Cape Town, up on our rooftop, literally upstairs. And I married my dream girl in front of 2 witnesses, an officiant, and a Zoom conversation with all of our family watching from abroad.
Wow. So it was a Zoom wedding. That's a very interesting way to do the wedding and everything. So the sounds like the bride's family and your family were mostly on the Zoom conversation and not necessarily there in person with you.
You were talking about it earlier. If there is anything that is the new normal, I think that is exactly what it is. It's getting married online.
That might be the new normal. Folks might be getting dates online. Folks might be getting married online. I know that I have a good friend of mine, Mona Shakes, who is originally from, her family is of Pakistani descent. And she was actually complaining about how the whole Corona world, the whole COVID world had really messed up her social life because she was not getting the social life that she used to have, and she was not having the same kind of success that she had. And she was also complaining that she couldn't necessarily have the upkeep of her that she wanted to stay as well because of Zoom. So she was getting quite frustrated by all of the things that were happening. So she was definitely frustrated by that. So I'm sure that you've known folks like that as well. I know that I need to go see my barber again, but I was able to see him and everything. So I do know that unfortunately there was a time frame where you couldn't see them or anybody else. So folks were just trying to live the best they could.
Yeah, I think that's it. If you show me one person that hasn't been affected by all of this lockdown, and yeah, I mean that's where we are. It is we do a lot of inspirational work with young people, and one of the topics that I'm actually teaching young people is welcome to the new normal, and we break it down. We kind of literally start right there. So let's break it down from beginning: new and normal. All right. So what is new? What is something that is new? Something that is new is usually something that happens daily. So it is forever changing. Right. And then what is normal? Well, normal to me and normal to you, Mark, and the audience may be completely and probably is completely different. Right. So new normal is something that's changing constantly to new people all the time in different ways. So it is not a noun, it is a verb. It is a forever constantly changing modus operandi, and it's rather exhausting, but it's rather exciting at the same time.
And how are y'all dealing with the new normal with even education? Because I'm not sure what they're doing in South Africa with education. As I mentioned earlier, with our little quick news segment and everything, the folks here are trying to figure out what to do because, like I said, we did have spring classes and things of that nature, but now in the fall, apparently they will take attendance. I don't know if they did that in the first session and everything. So now that we're going more into fall, they're definitely saying they're going to take attendance, and it will be more like what you just said, a normal class and things of that nature. So they are trying to fit it within that model, but so many people don't know how to deal with this computer thing that we've got. So they were having breakdowns all over North Carolina where I'm at and everything.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get adjusted to it. So have schools started in South Africa already, or are they starting later, or where are y'all at in the school system? And even with your own program, because I'm imagining that this program is similar to what we would call like a boys and girls club. That's what it sounds like to me. It would be similar to kind of a boys and girls kind of club model.
Yes, it is. It is. It does associate itself with the Boys and the Girls Club in the US. Schools wise, here, obviously, we're in the Southern Hemisphere. So we have our summer break from basically early December to mid January. So at the moment, they've just come off of winter holidays. It's freezing down here at the moment. Actually, snowed on Table Mountain this afternoon. First time we've had it in years. So it's literally snowing outside, which is unprecedented for Cape Town. So school term wise, under our government and everything that's been going on here, don't even get me into politics. But anyway, we had our schools go back in the beginning of June for about 2 weeks, and then they closed them down immediately. So at the moment, our high schools, primary schools, and tertiary institutions are all closed until further notice. Wow. So no one really knows what's going on. We really are at an absolute loss end. There's a lot of online platforms becoming available, online academies, tertiary institutions adapting their stuff online. But if you weren't ahead of the game 6 months ago, you're falling behind now because you're just employing developers on every way, shape, and form in order to build your curriculum into an LMS system and make it available to your students. Not an easy task by any means. So I think those that were at the forefront of it, I will say we were, so I'm happy to say that, we're kind of seeing the benefits from it. But I think on something that you just touched there now, Mark, that there's a major adaptation that needs to take place. Certainly in South Africa, we find ourselves educating our audience. So, I mean, we will start our digital workshops every day with, hi guys, welcome. We'll only take classes of 100, bottom left-hand side, you can put your microphone on and put it off, do this and do that. So it's like how to use the platform, be it StreamYard, be it Zoom, be it Microsoft Teams, whatever it is. So we teach them how to use the platform, and then we start getting into it. And by the third class, they're completely accustomed to it, and it's second nature. So it's this adaptation that's becoming a little bit tricky. Specifically in South Africa too, and I don't want to harp on about it too much, but we've got a major problem with our data, and our Wi-Fi is exorbitantly expensive, like ridiculously. I was in the US in September last year. I had the fortune of going the whole East Coast from New York down to Florida. And yeah, I mean, data expenses as to what we pay here it'll blow your mind, like it really will. Secondly, we have a thing called load shedding, which is they cut our electricity out for between 2 and 4 hours every day for every province of South Africa. So we don't have any power, let alone Wi-Fi. And if you've got Wi-Fi, it's really been difficult. So I think to sum up, our biggest concern at the moment is what is going to happen with the 2020 grade 12s, our matriculants, as well as our grade 1s. Next year, there looks like there's going to be a double up of a lot of these years and grades, which, of course, I mean, our classes at the moment are 50, 60 people each. Next year, they're going to be 100 people plus. So the individual attention's being questioned. It's causing this ripple effect that's just ripping its way through parents in South Africa. So a lot to be considered, a lot to be designed for, but at the same time, a lot of opportunities are becoming available. So we're going from day to day, Mark. We really are literally going from day to day to how to encompass all of this and how to solve the problems.
Wow. And you just mentioned that y'all are off, no power for about 2 or 4 hours every day, and that y'all are in the middle of winter.
Every day.
That it's cold, and you have like to bundle up with like the coat and everything else while it's cold outside. So either that, or I'm trying to figure out how y'all are dealing with the heat, because I know that in the winter we love our heat just like we love our AC during the summer. So I'm just trying to figure out how you're gonna deal with that for those 4 hours when it's got to be, I don't know what the average temperature is, but I'm thinking it's got to be like 20 or something like that if it's winter.
Yeah, Celsius wise, we are anything. I think today was between 8 and 14 degrees. Everyone thinks South Africa, hot, sunny, summer safaris and all that. And yes, it is. But down in Cape Town, down south, we are 35 degrees south. And it gets pretty chilly down here. It gets very stormy. So yeah, I mean, cutting off power, we've just got chargers sitting everywhere. A lot of people have been able to wire up their houses to batteries and generators. So you'll see all the power goes off, and then you just hear this, wah, 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 and all the generators go on.
Wow.
So the 6 in one, half a dozen of the other. But as I say, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger or affects you mentally. So we just choose the former and we go with it.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, most people, when they think of South Africa, of course, they think about y'all's past history and apartheid and things of that nature. For those that don't know about South Africa and Cape Town, because we get a global audience and everything, and I know that Alexandria is from there, so she talks about it a little bit, but still, she's usually concentrating on music. So I just want our listeners that are watching that might not know about South Africa, maybe they're thinking that whenever the world opens back up, they might want to visit South Africa. So what can you tell them are the good qualities of South Africa and the bad qualities? Because we know every country has both good and bad. So just give us like the thumbnail version of Dean's version of South Africa.
Absolutely. I'd be proud to do so. Mark Lee, South Africa is the most beautiful country you would have the privilege of stepping foot into. This place is surreal. We've got the wine route, we've got the garden route, we've got the savannas, we've got the desert area, we've got the tropical area up in KwaZulu-Natal. We've got cities that borderline the coastline. We've got cities that are wrapped in mountains. Conversion-wise, dollar to rand is 17, 18 to 1 or something like that. So affordable-wise for anyone from the US, it's beyond affordable. Accommodation-wise, people-wise, it's just absolutely stunning. It is truly, truly, truly stunning. The people here too they've got this well-being about them that is amazing. Unfortunately, our government has kind of taken the mick out of us for quite a while now. Our unemployment rate is just about to hit about 50% of the country.
Wow.
So in a country of 59 million people, that's a lot of homeless people. Right. And these guys are like borderline poverty line. So that is what actually very much unfortunately takes away from the country, because there is this sense of entitlement that the government owes me and must give me what they promised me from 1994 when they told me I'd be getting low-cost housing, etc., etc. The general atmosphere here, and again, I love this place, it is my home, but the general atmosphere here at the moment is a little resenting, a little angry, a little bit upset, a little bit thinking that the government's going to take care of all of their problems. So we're trying to promote the entrepreneurship route as much as possible. But again, to try and teach a young person that doesn't really want to be taught, that can't really be taught because they can't afford the data and doesn't have the electricity to do so, we really are facing uphill battles. Again, in saying that, put down your laptop and take a walk outside for an hour, and you will battle to find a more beautiful place. Like it is rich in beauty. It just smells like sea and forest and mountain everywhere. It's stunning. It's just we're going through, and I know everyone is, but we're really going through we're going through the ringer at the moment. Today, for the first time, and it's got nothing to do with me really, but today for the first time in 5 months, alcohol and cigarettes are legal. As of midnight tonight, cigarettes and alcohol are legal. They have made both of those things illegal for 5 months during the lockdown. and we're not too sure why exactly, because all it's done is open up a black market trade. But I mean, like these things are just debilitating us completely. We're not allowed to travel. We haven't been allowed to do this and that and everything. I could go on for days. I
Well,
love the place, but at the
that
same
sounds
time,
like a lot is going on there. How are the because I know it's a very diverse. I mean, we celebrate our self-pride diversity, having everything from
yeah.
African Americans to Europeans to Native Americans to Asians and various other cultures. I usually think of several nations within Africa, but definitely South Africa as being a very diverse population. Of course, y'all did go through some of the history with apartheid and things of that nature. But how is the diversity celebrated now? Also, is the school very integrated, and is there a lot of integration within the society now, or how are those relationships going in the 21st century?
I think we're doing a lot better than we have done in the past. Apartheid obviously hit us hard. It has caused a really bad kind of like trademark or stamp that stuck with us for many, many, many years. And a lot of us younger generation folk are trying to resolve issues that our grandfathers might have possibly been involved with. But between the cultures here, there's black and white and colored. There's a big Indian culture here in KwaZulu-Natal, which is lovely. It's, the Khaisan, the Khoisan, all of that. Yeah, we're pretty diverse in the schooling and the education sector. Race, color, religion, politics really doesn't matter, and certainly something we push for. We don't really talk about that stuff too much. We do tell the young people, like religious wise, do have a belief. Who should it be? That's up to you. Political wise, do vote. Who should we vote for? That's up to you. So I mean, it's about trying to integrate these young people. But if you're growing up in a family whereby your mom or your grandmom was affected by apartheid, you are going to have this underlining annoyance ever so slightly to the opposite race, which doesn't work well. Some people harp on it and other people try and squash it down, but it's unfortunate. It is what it is. We are stuck where we are, unfortunately. And until someone puts their hand up and says, hey, listen, everyone's equal, everyone's fair, everything in between, we really are going to battle.
And now tell us a little bit about the Pride Factory as well. Exactly, you talked about it being kind of like a enhancement kind of thing. So like enhancing people. Is it strictly in the arts, or are you trying to, what courses are you offering, and what kind of courses are you teaching with the Pride Factory? So tell us a little bit more about what the Pride Factory is.
Okay, firstly is Pride Factor. We get that quite often. Pride Factory, Pride Factor, Pride Factor Academy. Okay, now you're really going to get me excited. So what entrepreneurs do is they find solutions to problems. Okay, in South Africa, unfortunately, at the moment, is rife to problems. So what we've done over the last 6 years is we've put together a finishing school, if you would, like you said, a boys and girls school, like a finishing school, whereby we teach young people the skills, maybe the etiquette, the mindset between teenager, young adolescent, and adulthood, bridging those gaps of life skills that I certainly, and maybe you didn't either, learn at high school, talking to people, emotional intelligence. They say that the average adult nowadays will have up to 5 careers. Therefore, you're going to fail at a number of things. So how do you deal with failure? What are you going to do about it? If something goes wrong, what are you going to do? We're looking at subjects like being remarkable, and then we're looking at things like entrepreneurship, work readiness, financial literacy, etc., etc. The responses to it have been absolutely phenomenal. Like they really have. And now we're running workshops. We were running one a week. Now we're running up to 2 a day. We've got one this weekend or on Friday for World Entrepreneurship Day called So You Want to Be an Entrepreneur? And it's a 3-hour free event. We partnered up with Facebook to run an event at the end of the year. It's Ladies Month or Women's Month in South Africa. So we're running events for them. It's been hugely accepted. And again, it's such a difficult place to be in, Mark, because the whole country, the whole world is going through these difficult times, and we are too. But at the same time, we're kind of flying. So I'm not gonna hold myself back on that. I'm forever grateful for all of our supporters and partners and colleagues and everyone in between. It's been tough, but yeah, these life skills, teaching young people how to deal with these circumstances, the new normal, thriving in 2020, etc., are being begged for, and we're able to put a solution to that problem. So we're very grateful.
It sounds like it. And I know that here in North Carolina, there is a very active startup community. We've had a lot of startups that have started here, and there's a very active startup community throughout the Southeast, I would argue, but definitely here in the Triangle area, which is what we call Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill. So definitely a rich startup community. I did not know that there was a rich startup community in South Africa. Is there already an existing rich startup community? Because when I think of entrepreneurship in the African nations, certain countries come to mind. I wasn't sure what was going on in South Africa. I know Nigeria definitely has a very rich business kind of community and things of that nature. I want to say that maybe Kenya, and I know those are further north than y'all, definitely have kind of rich business communities. But I wasn't sure what was going on in South Africa from the standpoint of startups. And when you're talking to these young folks, what kind of advice do you give them? Because one of the things that I'm finding is that COVID is forcing us to become entrepreneurs. Even if we weren't entrepreneurs, a lot of people are like saying, I had that idea. I wanted that bookstore. Regular work got in the way, and I didn't have any push to create that bookstore. COVID happened. I'm sitting in my house. I've got these 100 books. I might as well at least put the business plan to have the bookstore so that when COVID is done, the bookstore can be launched. And that's just a fictional example, but it was one that I made up in my head. But I do know that a lot of folks are creating entrepreneurship ideas because of the forced lockdown. So are y'all seeing more of those? And do you have some examples of even some of your students that might have started businesses that surprised you?
Yeah, I think there has been kind of a forced entrepreneurial nature and mindset that's been adapted worldwide. I mean, we've launched, or we're launching at the moment in India, Vietnam. We launched in the UK. We've been to Kenya, talking to Nigeria, Tanzania, all the African countries, and there is kind of this slightly forced entrepreneurial path that's there, but at the same time, it is offering opportunities to young people to see that there is more entrepreneurial opportunities available. Obviously, everyone's taking everything online very, very quickly. Some people are doing it very well. Some people are battling a little bit with it. I think there's a couple of things to that. One is, certainly in Africa, you need to educate your audience. It's very much something. So you're trying to teach someone something, you've got to teach them how to learn first. You've got to show them that this is the benefit and this is what the outcome is. So like the saying always goes, and I think I said on the last show too, the saying usually goes, don't give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. Right. In South Africa, and I'll be bold enough to say in Africa as a whole, it's slightly different. Because the government has looked after the young people and the families for a long time, and that's kind of fallen away now, the best thing to do is actually give a young person a fish and then teach him how to fish and use the fish as the motivation as to why to learn. So I will give you a fish, you taste it, you see the appreciation, you enjoy it, and now I understand why I should learn to go and fish. So it is very much that educate your audience first, give them the low-hanging fruit, give them some benefits, and then afterwards show them why they should learn to carry on with the benefits. And as soon as that routine kicks in, you can stand back and just let them do their own thing. Then they are 100% sorted.
And can you give some examples of any, how long have the kids been in the program? Are there any that have already graduated or have already got to the point where they have created any programs? And if so, what are those programs that they have created already? Because like I said, how long has the program been running, and has anybody matriculated or graduated?
Right. Well, there is really no finishing point as such. We're an ongoing kind of concern. So we run a membership program where youngsters buy a membership, or they pay for the membership. As I say, we are entrepreneurs. We teach entrepreneurs by being entrepreneurs. We, teach them how to pay tax and make profit, because we pay tax and we make profit. So we've got a membership whereby young people can join up, and every single week they can join all the classes that we've got. We've got dedicated classes to them in the morning to try and just inspire and motivate them to get up and get on with their day. Very much topical around current affairs, again, non-religious, non-political, but what's happening in the world. There's a trend towards drop shipping. Let's go with the drop shipping. From the youngsters side of things, we've groomed a number of youngsters, hundreds, thousands, if not, of young people to go on and either start working with us or for us. They run events for us when we are allowed to run events. They become speakers on our platforms like this. One or two of our graduates or long-term students, the one that comes to mind is a young girl called Vuyu Jaboda. She came on one of our first workshops in 2014, and she is now a radio host, a TV show host, an author, an influencer, and something else.
Wow.
And she's just turned 21.
Oh, wow.
So she is flying at her level, but that's what she wants to be doing, There are other ones that have just gone on and got a job, or other ones that have started businesses. We run pitching competitions, teach them how to pitch their idea in 60 or 120 seconds. So yeah, there's been a great amount of success stories, but again, it takes maintenance, it takes continuity, it takes the ongoing support. It doesn't just, you graduated, you're good. We're constantly evolving and constantly trying to help these young people, and eventually they come back to us and offer us help, which is great.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Now, you mentioned the pitch contest. I actually attended a couple of those here in the Durham area. I thought they were fascinating. You would see these entrepreneurs pitching great ideas, everything from like scientific-based ideas to product-based or a number of other kinds of things. Unfortunately, they were usually in bigger spaces and things of that nature. So I'm imagining that most of the pitches now will be virtual pitches. So how is the pitch space being developed in the COVID age? Or are y'all still having pitch events, or how are the pitch events being done there in South Africa? Because I know the ones I saw were, might take anywhere from 5 to 6 hours. They were definitely spectacular events where folks got to highlight their various businesses, but I was wondering how they were being done in South Africa, and if you knew of any pitches that were going on either through your company or other companies that were either in the virtual space or in the more traditional space.
Well, we run university roadshows usually every year with a Vodafone or Vodacom here. We usually run around to 25 or 30 universities a year, and we go and run pitching competitions. So we actually teach them how to pitch it. They've got to apply and got to tell us what their business model is, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking to just virtualize that at the moment, whereby young people, they go through kind of a bit of a process. And number one, they join in the pitching competition, pay their entry fee, and then they will get a digital workshop that will teach them how to pitch, teach them how to do some public speaking, teach them how to organize all their content and PowerPoint or PDF presentations. Then from there, we'll select a couple of them to then each make a video. They submit the video. From the video, then we'll go into a live pitch where everyone will have between probably 120 and 180 seconds, so 2 to 3 minutes, elevator pitch. We're not getting to the crux and the core of every single iota of the business, but we are allowing them the opportunity to wax that elevator pitch so that they can just at least take themselves to the next level. From there, a bunch of them get filtered through into our prize pool where they get mentorship, they win some prizes, and they get some kind of help that will assist them with their ongoing business and venture. So it's, again, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
And now the competition, is it open to the global audience? The program, is it open to the global audience, or is it pretty much just concentrated on those countries that you mentioned? For example, and what is the age range that you're targeting? But let's say I heard you mention somebody was 21, so they may have started when they were 16. So whatever the age range is it, say somebody in Memphis or New York wanted to apply and y'all hadn't come to the United States yet, is there avenues that they can get involved, or do they just need to wait for y'all to move here?
I would be happy to see a couple of entries coming in from Memphis or New York. I really would. I would strongly encourage that. So no, we're not limited to any place in particular because everything is done virtually. So it's brilliant. Prizes are done virtually, so it fits into everything. We are mainly targeting Africa as a whole. Got a lot of entries coming in from Nigeria, Kenya, Tanzania, Botswana, Mozambique, South Africa, of course, and Rwanda, strangely enough. But yeah, anyone, everyone could enter the competitions by all means. I'd welcome that. Actually, I'd be very excited to see an entry coming from New York or Memphis.
And what age range are you looking at and
Oh,
things that
anyway, sorry, that was the second question. Yeah, so youth are classified as under 35. So anyone under 35. We are looking for the young people to be inspired by the more established people. We won't go with the older, but more established. And we're also looking for the more established people to possibly get some of the idea generation from the younger people. So as long as everyone's seeing what everyone else is doing, Mark, I feel like it is a win-win scenario. So when we host the pitching competition, we have probably our 30 or 35 finalists, but everyone and anyone can watch it. So ideally they learn something or maybe get inspired or a spark. That's the whole idea here. We're trying to we are creating a community of like-minded people, of path walkers that all kind of want the same thing, regardless of the background, regardless of the country. Broaden your aspirations, challenge your horizons, and just become that better person in general. So yeah, wherever we can be.
Yeah, one of the things that I can say is that when I went to the pitch competitions, one of the most inspiring pitch competitions I went to was actually a youth competition. It was actually youth entrepreneurs. I think they were all 21 and under, actually. I think the oldest might have been 21 or 22, but there were a number of teenagers that had everything from like t-shirt companies to, I think one had like a comic book. There were some people doing jewelry. There were some people that were doing more like the DJ kind of thing and more of the technological kind of aspect, computers and things of that nature. There was a young lady that actually, I think she was teaming up with her mom and they were doing like some stuff around science, but they were some of the most inspiring folks I've seen. I've definitely seen the adults also have some great pitches, but definitely saw the young people have just some amazing ideas that you were not expecting. For those that are not as familiar with you, like I said, I do know that you've been on the IBM.TV platform with Alexandria and everything. But for those that are familiar with you, could you talk a little bit about your own entrepreneurial background for those so folks can know a little bit about your own history as an entrepreneur and as an educator?
Well, what can I say? I've got quite a colorful background in the entrepreneurial space as well as just in the life space. And I come from a small town in Cape Town called Kommetjie. It's known for fishing and horse riding. Like there really isn't a lot there at all. My parents were really not wealthy by any means. My father's a water sports promoter. He was the top South African surfer for many years. My mother's an actress and a artist. So also no money came from either of those, unfortunately. So from a very young age, I was kind of thrown into the entrepreneurial space out of a term of necessity, to be honest. So I started selling wood when I was very young. I started gardening, babysitting, car washing, whatever. I'd remove the snake from your tree if you paid me enough. Like I'd do whatever it took to make a little bit of money, you know. I then got into surfing more so, and I became a professional surfer when I was about 13 years old. When I was 17, I was a waiter, a barman, and actually a model and TV actor. And I broke my back. So professional surfing went out the window. As I say, those that can do and those that can't teach. So I got into surf coaching. I moved to the UK for 4 years and did a lot of surf coaching there. And then I had a strange coincidence of events where I lost my fiance, my house, my car, my job, and my cat in 13 days. Don't even ask. It's a terrible story, but a great story at the end of the day. It was a lot of hardship and pain at the time. And luck behold that I met a guy on a plane. He gave me an opportunity to do some Forex trading. I'd done a bit of this, done a bit of that, and now I made a bit of money. And when I made a bit of money, I started looking at different investments. So I bought a piece of property and I went down that space. I got into real estate, actually as a real estate owner and as a seller. I then started a TV company called Global Nomads, another one called Get Lost. It was all about travel shows and travel TV, South Africa and globally, which went very well for a while and then disappeared. Um, and then tried a couple of other things. We tried running surfing events. I've still got a Guinness World Record to this day, actually, for Earthwave, which was the Guinness World Record for the most surfers riding one wave simultaneously. That stands at 110 people on one wave at one time, which we broke down here in Muizenberg in Cape Town in 2010. And since then, yeah, I got into Pride Factor and started a couple of other little ventures here and there. So I've kind of been the trial and error guy, Mark. I've never really come from the fundamental training or the structured approach. I've very much been trial and error, learning as we go along. Some people say that's the best recipe for it. Some people say that's the worst recipe for it. But I think in answering your question, the long run, is that a lot of what we do is teaching young people the life skills that are necessary through our own experience. This isn't duplicated content. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We're teaching young people lessons that really can be relevant for them or to them. And a lot of what I teach young people when I get the opportunity to be on the microphone is I can certainly tell them what not to do, as opposed to, this isn't the recipe for success. I can show you the recipe for disaster, and I can show you how to avoid it. But we kind of go down every realm that there is possible. So my entrepreneurial journey has been a learning curve throughout, and it's still continuing. To try and adapt to everything online or digitally in the last 3 months, we were iota away from making it happen. But this has obviously given us a bit of a candle under our butt that we need to make it happen quickly, and at the same time make it happen internationally. So it really has been quite an interesting time.
It sounds like it's been a fascinating time. I'm still trying to get over the fact that you lost your past fiance before the wife and everything, but that you lost this fiance, this job, and this cat at the same time, because I'm actually a pet lover. My brother has dogs at the moment, and I've had cats and various other animals. So I do know that losing an animal can be a hardship. And the fact that you lost an animal and a lady love at the same time, that's like losing two of your hearts at the same time. So I don't know how you survived that, because did the cat just like walk away? Because I've had animals do that. The cat just like says, I've had it, I'm out.
Basically, the cat just went, listen, I'm out of here. Like, we're done. Thank you. It's been fun, but goodbye. So, yeah.
The cat was like, I've enjoyed it. I actually had that happen with one of my pets. We later learned that pet, unfortunately, was also a thief, because we had a couple of strange pets. And I know that different countries have different animals that are strange pets. But at one point, we had a pet raccoon. And the raccoon was staying outside and was enjoying the outside life. And we might go out there and deal with Bandit. It had the mask. So we were not original in our name. So it was called Bandit. And when we finally, and I think it was can't remember which gender, but whatever gender, they decided to go off into the woods, because we lived near some woods, and find their significant other. So when we went out and checked on where the raccoon had been staying for its house, we found some of Mom's jewelry. So the raccoon had done what raccoons will do, and had been basically like a little bit of a thief and things of that nature. So we did not miss it all that much, but I did miss my cats and did miss a couple of the other animals that I've had that were more traditional. So I do know that can be a serious hardship and everything. But I agree with you that it's all about life lessons, and we oftentimes learn life lessons, and sometimes we also have to learn them the hard way. One of the stories that I've shared here before that I think you'll get a kick out of is I went down to Miami, speaking of Miami, to follow love, because I had found a friend and everything through another mutual friend. So they had introduced me to this person, and I'm thinking, I've been kind of the crush kid in life, even in older life, and I'm 58 now. So I had gone down there saying, well, I'm going to go down there and I'll be near, I think the young lady's name was Denise. I'll be near Denise. So I moved down to take a job in Boca Raton. What I did not realize was that Boca Raton and Miami is not exactly next door. There is still a little bit of a distance between them. So, I went down there thinking, I'm going to take this job. I'll be near this lady that I think I at least got some feelings for. And I think I called her up and she's like, Mark, you're still about an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I'm like, Trans.
Brilliant show, man.
Shows
Yeah.
moving closer and things of that nature. When you talk to the kids, what advice do you give them in terms of entrepreneurship? Because it is something that I think that is fascinating to many folks. Like I said, you've had your ups and downs with entrepreneurship. You were a surfer. I definitely have mad respect for surfers. While I love the ocean and while I love looking at the ocean, me and those waves, I'm scared of them. So I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm scared of those waves and all of that because I know they can take you under and you'll be gone. So, like I said, I've just got a little bit of that natural fear of the waves, but got mad respect for you that want to do that and things of that nature. Just like I got mad respect for folks that want to do diving. And I actually have a friend of mine, a young lady friend that is a diver, and she goes to a church that I was involved with. They meet at one of our cultural arts centers that I'm involved with, and she actually had one of those fatal accidents where she hit her, well, not fatal, because fatal implies that you're gone, but a serious accident where she hit her head and injured her body, but she survived, and she's actually thinking like you. She's going to think about doing dive coaching and doing some other things to continue that, even though she will probably never dive again because of the type of injury she had. I mean, she's not paralyzed, so she is able to walk and teach and all of that, but I don't think that she'll ever dive again, just like I don't know that you'll ever do the whole surfing thing again, but you can be a coach. But coming back to the question, what advice do you give to folks when you're talking to these young folks about what makes an entrepreneur successful in your mind? So like I said, you talked about that you can learn from some of the negative things of both yourself and some of your other professors and teachers, but what are some of the advice that you give folks?
I think it's a combination between, it's not just what you say, it's the way that you say it. So certainly for our youngsters here in South Africa, they like a little bit of edutainment, exactly like we're kind of doing here. I mean, some content, some relevance, and then at the same time it's fun, it's interesting, it's a little bit offbeat. So it's very much in the way that we're positioning ourselves in a way that if a brand gets behind us, if Vodacom or Microsoft or whatever it is sponsoring one of our events, we arrive at the place, or we'll start our digital workshop and we'll crank up the music and we'll play a video that might be a little bit, out there to try and just disrupt or interrupt the youngsters' thoughts. We bring quite a lot of the celebrity or influencer involvement into it to try and get these young people to see that there's, they can associate or interact with these kind of people, which really does heighten it. We do the gifts and the prizes and all that kind of stuff. So on the one side, the content. On the second side is obviously the delivery of the content. But in the content itself, it is very much, if you had a tree, okay, you got the tree, which is the roots, which is kind of your attitude, your mindset, your belief, all those kind of things. So it's the roots. Then you got the trunk, which is your core values, your understanding as I know you as a person. Then you got the branches, which are your opportunities and the paths that you take. And then you got the leaves, which are forever changing. It's the seasons. It is change. It's adapting to change. So I think we very much approach it from a root kind of level, which is the mindset kind of level. Of, do you know what entrepreneurship is? Do you understand that you're going to have to work 100 hours a week instead of 40? Do you understand the risk versus the reward? So we're really trying to get ingraining into like the concept of entrepreneurship. And once we've established those roots, Mark, then we get into things like ideation. What is a good idea versus a bad idea? What are or one good idea versus 100 mediocre ideas? Where do ideas come from? The inspiration, business model canvases, minimal viable products, etc., etc. So we will break up into it. But if we're doing a 3-part workshop on entrepreneurship, I can guarantee you half of it will just be mindset. And then from there on in, we'll actually get into the actual implementing, structuring side of entrepreneurship. So it's really like not grassroots, but baseline content and education.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that a lot of the entrepreneurs will definitely be able to identify with that and things of that nature. Now, just in terms of your own life and everything, you mentioned that you are an entrepreneur, and you mentioned that your parents were not entrepreneurs. You just recently got married. Is your wife an entrepreneur, or did she come from a whole different mindset? Or did she look at you and go like, I cannot believe I hooked up with a fellow entrepreneur, or she was like, that's a whole crazy thing. I'm gonna stick with the job market and not do the whole entrepreneurship thing.
My beautiful wife, which I'm loving saying that for 10 days straight. My wife comes from the Eastern Cape of South Africa, so not too far from where I am, probably about 8 hours drive, hour and a half flight from a lovely area called the Eastern Cape, Port Elizabeth. But when she was younger, probably about 17, 18 years old, she started working on the super yachts. So I think by the age of 25, she had been to 54 different countries and saved up a bucket load of money that isn't even quantifiable in South African terms and in dollars. And she basically based herself in Florida, also spent a lot of time on the West Coast, as well as a lot of time in Alaska, strangely enough. And then Bahamas and everywhere down there, Canary Islands and everything. So entrepreneurial, maybe not so much, but understanding that someone says, hey, listen, we need to be in Alaska in 4 weeks' time. We need 25 staff there, and we want to spend 2 weeks there and have a lot of fun. To now go and create that program, make the plans, get all the regulations, make sure that all the staff are allowed, the ship is ready, I think there is a large entrepreneurial spirit that goes into it, because she'll just be handed everything and just said, make this work. So, I mean, right now, as we're speaking, it's 10 past 9 p.m. at night, and she's sitting in the room next to me and she's working. She's just carrying on. We've had dinner and she's just carrying on. So she hasn't really learned entrepreneurial ropes, but she is learning the entrepreneurial ropes because she's thrown herself into a deep end. And I think that's got something to say there. If you throw yourself into a deep end of anything that you don't know about, are you being an entrepreneur? Are you being an intrapreneur? You're learning and you're making solutions to problems. So she's very much got the entrepreneurial nature, and I feed off of her and she feeds off of me. It's brilliant. We've got a harmonizing relationship.
It sounds like it. And one of the things that I was curious about as you were saying that is, I know here in the States, a number of people were really tied into like corporate America, and they were definitely enjoying that kind of corporate America kind of lifestyle. But then sometimes they would feel a little bit bogged down by corporate America because it can have its limitations. I mean, definitely it's good to have a steady job and things of that nature, but then sometimes people would feel that it was a little bit too bogging in terms of like not giving them enough room to grow because they didn't see enough room for advancement and things of that nature, or they might have hit that glass ceiling, because the glass ceiling doesn't just exist for women or minorities. It can exist for a number of folks. It can exist based on age, on a number of things is the reason the glass ceiling can be there. So they would hit that glass ceiling and they would feel bogged down. So one of the things that I'm thinking that I'm seeing more here in the States is that because of COVID, like I said earlier, more people are exploring, do I really want to go back to my 9 to 5? Because right now I'm working from home and I'm able to do my job from home. So even if they bring me back, am I going to go back? Because I have a number of friends that are doing that. They're at that point right now. They're still working from home from their computer, still doing the telework, whether that's in the medical field, whether that's in call centers, whether that's in whatever. But they are questioning themselves even right now. They're asking themselves, when this is all over, whenever that is, and like you said earlier, we don't know when that'll be. Even in the music industry, I've heard some people say, 2020 is definitely a wash. 2021, maybe a wash, maybe not, but we don't know. It could be 2021 that we're back to some semblance of normal, or it could be 2022. Let's not hope. Let's not hope that, but that's what scientists and other folks are telling us. But are you saying that same kind of thing in South Africa, where people are thinking, do I necessarily want to go back to the job the way the job was?
Yeah, I think there's let's not forget. most countries are following the US. Like, I mean, we reciprocate what it is that you guys do over there. So we've got a close eye on, on what you're doing. And I actually saw a great article that answers this brilliantly in the New York Post, written on the 18th of July this year, called "It's 2022." And what he goes on to talk about is it's now all of a sudden it's 2022 and the pandemic's been over for about a year and a bit, and what's survived and what hasn't. The malls have gone, the smaller businesses have thrived, the cruise line industry is down, the bigger cities have become smaller, the smaller outside towns have become bigger because of the Googles, Twitters, Facebooks of the world saying that you can do work remotely. TVED education that's kind of trying to figure itself out. So there's some really interesting insight I found in that article. But again, it's futuristic. It's a one person's opinion and prediction on what's going to happen out there. So it has been a little bit tricky. What we're doing here at the moment, I think we're playing it more on the day-to-day, minute by minute, hour by hour understanding. As I say, we unfortunately have had governmental control that has had some ridiculous regulations, and then they've greenlit them, and then they've stopped them, and then they've implied them again. And so our biggest problem at the moment in South Africa is we're questioning our leadership. We're going like, whoa, 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 whoa. You told me that yesterday and this today. I mean, I went for a surf the other day. So for instance, the beaches have been closed for 5 months, but it's legal to surf. So you're legally allowed to be in the ocean, but you're not allowed to be on the beach. So basically, you have to get into the ocean without crossing the beach. So either you need a boat or a helicopter, but then there's some places where piers where you don't go over the beach. So it's so gray area. And again, I'm not disrespecting or anything, but it's so gray area that it's rather frustrating. That the other day I went surfing, actually on my wedding day in the morning, and a policeman pulled up next to me, and I was like, well, if I get arrested on my wedding day, we're going to have major problems, And the gentleman pulled up next to me, and I was like, hi, how's the water? It looks cold. I was like, it's really cold. And he goes, tell me, is surfing legal at the moment? I was like, we're trying to figure this out. He was like, yeah, because I don't know. I was like, well, we don't really know, So we're really battling with these little bits and pieces. And again, they'll all be resolved quickly or soon, hopefully enough. But I can't say it's been anything but trying, Mark. It's been extremely trying, and I think it's testing everyone's patience and understanding of themselves. So do you want to work from home? Do you want to return to work? I think we're still a couple of weeks, if not months away from that question being answered from our side, because we're not too sure. Everyone wants to work from home and stay at home. But there is that big distraction of the fridge, which is a big distraction, obviously. Jokingly, but in South Africa, I mean, between data expenses and not having electricity, I mean, I've got 4 employees dotted all over the country, 5 employees dotted all over the country, and they need to plan their days around our load shedding. So if the power is going to be out between 10 a.m. and 12 a.m. or 10 a.m. and 12 p.m., they need to get their grocery shopping and walk the dogs and get all those things done during that time, and then they work after hours. So it's I mean, it can't be easy for anyone, but no, it's certainly not an easy thing.
No, not easy at all. And a lot of folks, like you said, that is one of the dangers that people are finding about that. I was talking to a good friend of mine who is a musician here in the area, and he was telling me that unfortunately, I don't know if you remember this term, but when folks went to college in the 80s, and I think they used it throughout their life, but whenever they went to college, there was that expression of usually used for the ladies of the world, but it implied for the guys as well, which was the freshman 10 or the freshman 15. Well, I think that the entire world is having the freshman 20 or the freshman 25, because unfortunately we're in home, and after you do a little bit of work on your computer, even after you've had dinner or lunch or whatever food you had, that that dessert is calling your name. It's sitting there, and there's nothing really to stop you. There's no distractions that you might get from work to stop you from going there. So you're oftentimes grabbing things that you know you don't need. So I'm sure the entire world, I'd hate to see if they do a study as to how much weight gain has been put on in the world. I think it would be probably amazing and probably some
I
staggering.
think so. I think so. I think it's something like this. Okay. And off to the fridge you go. I need a distraction. Off to the fridge, you know.
Walk to the
I think so
fridge,
neat.
grab a quick drink, grab whatever. What are y'all doing in South Africa? You mentioned earlier about what is legal, what isn't legal about the mask, because I know we're encouraged to wear the mask. I definitely just went out and had to run a couple of errands, and when I was out there, I definitely had my mask on and everything. But there's no real penalty. But like I said, they encourage it, but there's no, as of now, there's no real penalty. But I do know that some other countries, one of our IBM teammates is in, I believe, Australia, and I think he gave me a figure of like 4,000 or 5,000, but it was some high amount that they were given if they caught you without a mask. So are y'all at that level, or are y'all pretty much just kind of like encouraging people to wear a mask?
No, so again, as of tomorrow, literally as of 3 hours from now, we go down to, so we're on level 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We now go down to level 2 tomorrow. It's more like level 2.5 actually. If you look at it, it's still a little 3, but a little 2. On the mask side of things, it is very much mandated. Should you go into any kind of closed environment, a mall, a shop, or anything like that, it's got signs everywhere. Listen, legally you need to wear a mask, and I think people are doing it out of respect. There's no rebuttal there by any means. Everyone wears a mask. There's a hand sanitizer everywhere that you go. You know, the ladies are complaining because their nails are getting pretty ruined from all the alcohol spray. But other than that, I think out of respect, everyone's doing the mask side of things. Outdoors, however, again, like I said earlier on, we're surrounded by ocean and we encompass by mountains. You're going to go and climb the mountains and walk amongst all that fresh air with no one around you. I would personally, and I might get hated for this, but I'm not going to be wearing a mask. I can tell you that. As we cross someone, if we walk past someone, both people usually put their masks on mutually, hi, you know. But if we're taking a walk out in nature or going down close to the beach, not on the beach, but close to the beach, masks are, most people are, you know, I find as you get closer into nature, a lot of people are wearing masks as neck warmers. They kind of sit here. I've got it, and I can do that very easily. But other than that, it's just keeping my throat warm.
No, I agree with you on that because, like I said, I wear the mask. I definitely wear it when I'm going to run errands. I'm a mass transit kind of person, but I am also the other thing about the food is there are several restaurants nearby. Nothing fancy, you know, like Subway kind of places, pizza places. So I am guilty of, when the cash is available, going there to grab food from them as well. And yes, they want you to wear the mask when you go into the restaurant. They want you to wear the mask when you grab the food and things of that nature, whether it's a convenience store or a restaurant. But they also open up a little bit. So, you know, with distance, you're allowed to sit down in the restaurants now, because I think we're in phase 2, and it might be like you said, phase 2.5, phase 3 or something like that. So you are allowed to sit down as long as you've got the distance. Now, I don't know about you, but until they put like that little some kind of special mask that is gonna open up wide, you gonna have to like throw the mask down in order to eat. So definitely, I do know that the mask sometimes becomes, like you said, a neck warmer and not necessarily doing the job it's supposed to do. Definitely, as we get ready to wrap up, and I do want to give people a chance to get the website about your company and things of that nature. But I do have to tackle one thing that I'm always curious to find when I have my international guests, because I've had other international guests as well, and everybody has a different opinion, but I'm always just curious to see what people's opinion are. So what is Dean's opinion? We won't even say South African's opinion, but if you want to put other people's opinion, but what is Dean's opinion of the U.S. political system and our current administration and things of that nature? So go ahead and tell us what you think of our current folks, either ways, or our political system. This is your chance to either bash the U.S. or praise it. Depends on what you want to do.
Oh, sure. Throwing me right into the tricky corner there, aren't you, Mark? Love it though. No, I enjoy that. Okay, so let me be completely forthright. I will be. From the only thing that we can judge on is the media that we are fed. And the media that we are fed, I feel, doesn't always tell the story because, again, the stories that I've tried to tell through the media doesn't always come out right. So, in saying that, I think my opinion is we've got a very interesting question. So we've got a leader at the moment, Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the president of South Africa, who was absolutely praised for his business tactics, etc. He brought McDonald's to South Africa in like the early 90s. He's a businessman. He's an absolute businessman, much like the Trump side of things is. So there's a slight mirrored synergy there, if you would, in a fact that our leaders are actually business people and economists as a sense. Okay. At the same time, I think Ramaphosa has embarrassed himself several times by opening his mouth without thinking or consulting too many other people at the same time or previously. Again, from the media that we have seen, I feel the same thing about USA's president at the moment. I do feel the same thing about what's going on in the UK at the moment. I feel the same thing about several other leaders. So I feel that that question is really difficult to answer because the media that we are fed, you don't know if it's Arthur or Martha. You don't know if it's real or not real, you know. Um, Again, in saying that, I had the fortune of coming over and spending my wife's birthday last year in New York City. It's the second time I've been, and it was spectacular. It was everything and more. We went to Broadway, we went all over the place. It was unbelievable. Then we had the fortune of driving, renting a car, because she's obviously been there many times, drove down to Washington, D.C., which is a place that I could live in, I tell you right now. And then we went to her sister's wedding down in Virginia, Richmond, which was, again, life changing. And then we spent a couple of days down in Miami, in Florida, which was also rather rather impressive. Some of the things we saw down in Miami, I must be honest. So again, in seeing what we see in the media, Mark, is one thing. In the experience that I had last year in America is another sense. So I must say I'm kind of torn, and I don't know if I'm slightly irritated in saying that, because having been to the US last year for a substantial amount of time, I loved it. And if I had the opportunity to grow our business and or move there, I'd be there in a flash. As what I see in the media, it tells me that I should question that opinion. And that's what frustrates me. That's what actually gets to me, is like, I love the place, but the media tells me that I should be wary of it. Same in South Africa. This place is absolutely amazing, but you should be wary of it. It's a tricky one. It really is a tricky one.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I can see where that would be the impression. And I agree, there are definitely leaders around the world that you sometimes wonder about that. But then you talk to people from those countries. I was talking to a young lady, like I said, I'm 58, but I've got friends of all ages. And I was talking to a young lady that's a friend of mine who I think she'll turn 30 in October, but she's from Brazil. And she basically talks about the Brazilian leader. She puts that Brazilian leader in that same category as the U.S. leader, as the U.K. leader, as what you're saying about the South African leader. And she's from there, but she definitely does not have any kind of respect for that leader. And I've heard that leader compared to Trump, even from outside folks, outside of the Brazilian culture. So, like I said, I definitely think it's interesting watching the media's perception, but also the perception of people from those countries. Because, like I said, she does not have any respect, and she's one of about 3 people that I know from Brazil that live here in North Carolina now, and none of them, and like I said, it's only a small sample of 3, but I can tell you that of those 3, they have no respect whatsoever for the leader of the Brazilian country, and they think that that leader has done some really crazy things. And I can't remember whether it's a man or a woman that's running that country, but whoever it is, they definitely think that they have done some crazy things in running the country. So along those same lines, and before we get to the whole thing about how folks can learn about this great organization of yours, and I've really been impressed by some of the things that you are teaching these young kids and everything. But what was your perception of the whole Black Lives Matter movement as well? I'm just curious as to what your perception, because of course y'all went through, as we said at the beginning of the show, y'all went through a lot of the same kind of discussions of the U.S. earlier civil rights, but also y'all went through it in the past. And I imagine there's even like some Black Lives Matter between your current police and different ethnic groups and everything of that nature. So what is the impression of Black Lives Matter movement in South Africa?
Well, I must say that actually just gave me shivers when you said that now. Okay, so South Africans firstly all want to be American. So there was a massive latch on. Like, I mean, it got violent in social media, much like it did in the US, where, you know, someone would say something and someone was like, oh, all lives matter. And straight away there was just this anger between us, which is not what we need, any divide or anything like that. However, what I must say to the Black Lives Matter is I don't think many South Africans knew that it was anything past what happened in July. You know, I think that's when they thought it first came about. And I think the average South African thought that the Black Lives Matter hashtag movement, all of that started in July 2020, which it didn't. It started decades ago, right. You know, and I think that was a major eye-opener here. We watched a couple of documentaries about what happened in the States in the 1980s and the crack cocaine in the 1990s and the this and the that. And I mean, you can go down the whole thing and what really transpired. So I think we were a little naive as South Africans to jump on the bandwagon and harp that drum, where at the same time we didn't really know the crux of the matter, the severity, and what the actual message was all about. So those that jumped on it weren't quite sure what they're jumping onto, and those that criticized it had no idea what they were saying by any means. And I still see it now where a lot of companies, a lot of people are publicly apologizing for saying, hey, all lives matter, all this and all that. We kept ourselves very neutral. I mean, 90% of our target market is Black people. But it was quite shocking how South Africa jumped onto it. I don't know if we're looking for a reason to shout and complain and add our fury. I think 94% of our country is predominantly Black. So we've got every reason in the world, but I don't think that it was clearly understood what the actual messaging was. So I feel like it got lost in translation a little bit. But yeah, it was very interesting times. It was very interesting times for us.
It sounds like it. And definitely, I wanted to bring in one of my co-hosts and everything from things at IBM.TV. Sasha Starr has joined us, and he is definitely a world-renowned chess player, as well as living in Canada right now, but I think originally from Russia. So he definitely adds a world perspective to our panel of things that we have going on here on a regular basis. So I've actually got definitely want you to stay on, and we're going to wrap up in another 15, 20 minutes or so. But I've got two requests of you, Dean. I need to find out if you can give us the website where folks can find out about Pride Factor. I did get it correct. And the other thing that I'm going to ask, just because I'm that kind of guy, is you need to go grab the wife so that everybody in the audience can see that lovely wife of yours, since she is a newlywed. So we want to see her face and everything. So I'm putting you on the spot.
You just want to see that she's real, don't you? I know. If I can hear correctly, she's actually in the bath next door. So I don't know if that would make for appropriate radio TV, unfortunately. But what was your first question? Sorry, Mark.
No problem. I'm just giving you a hard time and teasing you, but definitely we know she's real. The question that I was going to ask you is, can you give us once again the website and how folks can learn about the Pride Factor?
Yeah, pridefactoracademy.com. Everything we do is Pride Factor. It's the essence there comes out of, and I hate to say it, but again, we do it in a disruptive manner. The whole idea there is, unfortunately, one day you're going to die. We are all going to die. We're going to come to the end of our mortal coil, and we're going to tip off into the universe and go wherever we go, and no one knows. When you get to that point, when you are fading away, you ideally want to be sitting on that deathbed, which is a hammock, down in the bottom of Florida, listening to Bob Marley with your family around the sunset and a pina colada and this and that. And you want to look back on your life with a sense of pride. That is your pride factor. That's kind of the idea. So like Steve Jobs says, you can only connect the dots when you look backwards, but you can plan them moving forward. So we want you to get to the end of your life, look back and be proud of decisions you've made, the impact you've made, the change you've made in the world. So that's your pride factor. That's kind of how we named it. So pridefactoracademy.com is where you can find out everything about us. Otherwise, as I say, my beautiful wife is in the bath right now.
No problem. We don't interrupt that. But one of the questions I've got to ask you, and this is coming back to the fact that Sasha has popped on to the show and everything, is when you're teaching these young kids, and you are teaching a number of young kids, do you teach them about the whole nature of investment? And if you don't teach them about investment, why don't you teach them about investment? Because one of the things that Sasha does here with IBM.TV is he does have a number of shows. One of them is the chess show, but he also has an investment show. So I would love to hear your answer as to whether you teach them investment, and then Sasha may have some ideas as to some advice that he would give kids about investment. So I would first like to hear your answer as to whether you teach them about investing.
I think it is one of the most important things that need to be taught. Yes, we teach them definitely in any way, shape, or form. The number one argument in most relationships, friendships, and professional affairs is money problems. And the fact that we're not allowed to talk about it, or we aren't meant to talk about it, is absolutely ridiculous and Stone Age mentality. We've got to talk about money. How much do you earn? Oh, that's not really my business. How do you manage your money? Very much our business. So yes, we do. We've got a course that we called Show Me the Money, which is Financial Literacy 101. Our first lesson is called Everything You Know About Money is Wrong. So we're just trying to kind of get their excitement. We've got lessons called The Dark Side of Money, much like why most lotto winners end up going broke, saving versus investing, cash versus credit, etc., etc. So yeah, very much one of our. Actually, I start running my financial literacy course tomorrow, and I think it is the most requested course that we run at the moment currently.
Good. So, Sasha, a lot of the folks that he's teaching are 35 and under, and definitely a number of them that are 21 and under. So, what kind of advice would you give to young people if they were going to invest in something? So, what would you tell them was the number one investment that they should get if they were a kid? Since you do the investment program here on IBM.TV, I'm sure Dean would love to hear some advice that you would give to young people about investment.
Oh, well, I think everybody needs advice, young people and old people and not so old people. Everyone needs it, especially now when we live in the environment when there is a saving rate, even CDs in the banks, you can earn only 1% annual interest. So you're forced, regardless of your age, to venture into investments. Whether you like it or not, it's just a fact of life. It's just there's no any other way to deal with your money because, of course, there is inflation factors. There are many other factors. Not only that, obviously I'm a very optimistic person by nature, regardless the current economic situation. However, there is a scenario, and we cannot dismiss it, when there will be much less jobs, prominent jobs, any kind of jobs if you'd like, for especially young people to find. There will be a lot of people who will be living with their parents until they are 40 without being able to move out of the house simply because they cannot support themselves. So a lot of people will definitely look into investment as a means to support yourself, actually to start making money, learn how to do it. I'm talking about on my programs. I always start my programs with the number one. Your goal is the preservation of capital. So regardless what you do, the preservation of capital is by far number one. Because if you learn how to be in the financial markets and at least preserve the capital without losing any money, it's already a step forward. Now, on top of that, if you are skillful enough and learn about the market, gaining self confidence, then you can start to make a little bit of money here and there. And I found it's not too complicated when financial markets like stock markets, there are trillions of dollars are being traded every single day. So all you want is to make a few $100s here and there. Should not be too complicated, really. Once your mindset is really put into that, right?
That makes a lot of sense. And one of the things that Dean was saying before you reached us, everything, Sasha, was what were the figures that you said for unemployment in South Africa? I think you said that y'all are like, it's something like 50 or 60% unemployment.
We just about hit 50% officially. It was
Oh,
roughly 38% at the beginning of lockdown, and 38% officially is probably 42%. We're just about hit about 48% officially. So
I'll
we're
just be back with a cup of coffee. Just
All right. He's going to get his cup of coffee. No, it's live TV. We can get cups of coffee and everything like that. But 48%, and then you're saying that that will translate to about 50% eventually.
Yeah, definitely. It's mind numbing. Like, I mean, it's soul destroying. It is in every way, shape, and form. And these guys just don't have anything, that they can go back on. And they were promised a lot of things by the government 25 years ago, and they've been holding on to these little shoestrings, and nothing's kind of come of it. So, I mean, the heart bleeds in every way, shape, and form for them, but again, we can do what we can. So educating young people has become like priority number one in this country, actually in this continent. Educate young people to make the right decisions. And again, exactly like Sasha was saying, and like you were saying, if you can teach them financial credibility and financial literacy and mastery, if you would, that's when we win. But we've got to get them to want to learn it first. And that's where we step in, is creating that willingness to learn new skills, as opposed to, gimme entitlement. This is like, listen, if you want to get better with your life, you're going to need to learn some skills that will allow you that opportunity. So learn it.
And are y'all doing the rescue kind of programs like they were doing here in the U.S., where you would get like a certain amount of money that were promised to every citizen or to the majority of the citizens? Were y'all doing those kind of rescue programs similar to the U.S.?
What, during lockdown?
During lockdown, right?
You will shudder if I tell you the numbers. Like, it's not even. I mean, our families here, I think, are getting our below the poverty line families that are borderline on the streets or living in the previously / permanently disadvantaged areas will be getting 350 Rand a week, which is about $18 a week.
$18 a week is what they were getting at the poverty line. What about those that are in the middle class? Were they getting like $36 or something like that?
No, probably a little bit more than that. They're probably getting up to probably about $250 a week. Again, we've got a major, how would you say, some issue. It's not a problem, but we've a lot of young South African families. The more children you have, much like the UK, the more children you have, the more you get looked after. So our families here will normally range between like 6 and 9 kids. So I mean, they're like just. The parents have the children, and then when the parents grow older, they become the grandparents, and the children look after the grandparents. That's the whole idea. So the more children you've got, the more likelihood you're going to be looked after in 40 years' time. So the idea then is have as many kids as you can. So, and then it's, there's less jobs available, and there's more poverty. So it really is a really tricky circumstance that we're in at the moment, because you've got to educate these young people, but you can't go against what they know. You can't go against their culture by any means, and to each their own. But at the same time, our population is absolutely booming,
and there are no jobs, and there is very low economy and high unemployment. So if you do the numbers on that, we're not going the right way by encouraging everyone to continue having 7 to 9 kids.
So it's almost like the way that it used to be with the U.S. back in the farm days, back when the U.S. was more of an agricultural society, and they definitely would have multiple kids for the purpose of basically working the farm, because you wanted to have a workforce. So you basically wanted to create a workforce, so a number of folks would have a number of kids, because then you knew that you had a workforce that was self-built within your family tree and everything.
Precisely the same. Yeah.
Wow. I'm just getting over the fact that y'all's poverty folks were making $18 an hour. That just seems incredibly ridiculously unfair. I don't even know. I mean, you just said y'all got McDonald's, and if the McDonald's prices are like the McDonald's prices here, and I'm imagining they're probably very comparable, then I'm thinking that means that maybe 2-3 Happy Meals a week and your money's gone.
Well, yeah, I mean, we I mean, they're well away from fast food kind of places, but I mean, for 350 Rand or $18 a week, you could probably get some rice, some veggies, some bread, some milk, a little bit of sanitary care, and that's kind of that's you done dusted. That's it. That's what you got. So again, where you're trying to teach people, skills and things like that, and you're saying, listen, invest in data so that you can be online, so you can learn new skills, that's costing about $18 a month. So for them to take $18 a week, divide that up or multiply that by 4, and then use that quarter of their allowance and their worldly possession to buy data to look for jobs or to educate themselves is a non-conformist. It's not going to happen. There's no way. So they would normally then go to some place where there is free Wi-Fi, because the country's still on lockdown. There's no free Wi-Fi. So these guys are just like, we're really barking up a tree that just doesn't even exist anymore at the moment. It's tough, Mark. We're going through hell down here, man. We really are. We're not going through a good time at the moment. However, in saying that, keeping the positivity, there are those people that are wanting it more than anyone, and pain is a major teacher. So these youngsters are putting in everything that they can and making things available, and certain governments and organizations and certainly a bunch of private sectors are giving out mobile devices, data, opportunities. It annoys us ever so slightly when someone's given an opportunity and they go, nah, I don't want it. I'm going to be given something else. Rather just give me money. You're going, well, if you're given an education, run with it. Go with it, buddy. And some of them are just going, no, thank you. So we're in a tricky place.
So it almost sounds like the kind of folks that you have here, where it's a number of folks that will be given like opportunities to somebody that's homeless or whatever, may be given some money or something, but then they don't want to take the money because you're not taking, well, they want to use the money for something else is the real truth of the matter. But they'll tell you that they don't want to go to, you take them to, and I'll name a brand. You tell them that you want to take them to KFC, and they're like, no, I don't want to go to KFC. I want to go to the Jamaican joint down the restaurant, when really all they're trying to do is just milk you for the money to try to get whatever their habit is, whatever that habit might be. So It sounds like there's a number of folks that are in that kind of boat. You're trying to give them something to be a hand, not a hand out, but a hand up, something that can help them rise themselves to another level. But because it's not feeding what they think they should get, or it's not being given to them like freely with no strings attached, then they don't want to necessarily accept it. And that doesn't sound fair whatsoever. So I don't get it when folks have that kind of attitude, but you're right. A number of folks do have that kind of attitude. So I'm going to see if Sasha's going to pop back, and he may have something there, Sasha. So I'm going to pull him back into the
Everybody wants me today.
Yeah, you're very popular today. So like I said, we were getting ready to wrap up on this one. I do have the other show at 4, and you're more than welcome to pop in and everything. But popping in, I did want to find out from all of you, including you, Sasha, and I'll start with you, Dean. if you could, what words of advice would you give to folks if you want to give people a word of encouragement? And that can either be about the entrepreneurship world, which you are definitely part of with the Pride Factor, or it can just be life in general, because we are going through so much in life. So, what advice would you give to folks that might want some words of encouragement of any sort? So, I'll start with you, Dean, and then I'll hear from Sasha as well. So, what words of encouragement would you give people?
I think it's a bit of a tricky one, but I think it's is it successful people that are happy, or happy people that are successful? And it is always the latter. So if you can choose to be happy, or if you can find something each morning that just makes you feel happy, if it's reading a book, take half an hour to yourself every morning before you turn this bad boy on. Take half an hour to yourself every morning, meditate, read, have some lemon water, watch the sunrise, watch your child, whatever it is, just get your own opinion, find your own happiness. And if you can draw off of that all day, I feel like you're in a good place. Like Carson, sorry, my favorite quote, Carson from Downton Abbey says that the business of life is the accumulation of memories. Now, memories can only occur when patterns are broken, and patterns are only broken when you step outside of your comfort zone. So try something new. If something isn't working for you, try something new. Try and adapt. Try and create that happiness from within, and understand it's not always going to come in the form of a paycheck or a fat payout or anything. You can literally choose to be happy as best as you can. If you can do that, it becomes contagious, and we all benefit from it.
I appreciate it. Sasha, appreciate you popping in and definitely giving your words of advice about investment. And, always glad to have you pop in on my show, and as well as we're oftentimes on panels together. But definitely, if you could give some words of advice to just the general population, whether it's around investment, whether it's around life or whatever, I would definitely appreciate those words of advice. So let's hear it from you, Sasha.
Well, it's very difficult to improve on your speech, Dean. It's very eloquent. You've done really well. What can I say about? For example, in US, one of the problem of pandemic is that people don't want to restrict themselves to lockdowns or anything else, because they're saying that your freedom is encroached upon, and therefore they're unwilling to do obvious steps in order to fight and to prevail in this tragic situation. However, very few people realize that the freedom, all this wonderful freedom, what they're talking about, means absolutely nothing without money. Without money, what kind of freedom are you talking about? What can you do with your freedom if you have no money? Never mind health. If you don't have health and you don't have money and you have only freedom, it's laughable. It's the biggest nonsense I ever heard in my life. There is no such thing. So in order to really utilize everything what you can gain in your life, obviously you need good health. And good health, then you have to obviously do everything what's needed in order to save yourself from this horrible pandemic. Number two, money. Money is a very complicated matter. In fact, it is complicated. Sometimes people avoid do anything about it or even talk about it. I mean, it's like money. Oh, I would gain money. I hate the people who have money, and especially a lot of money, or so on. But it's a wonderful thing if you can create your own lifestyle, if you can do proper investments. But you have to learn how to do it. You can't do it overnight. I was very lucky one that when I started to invest, and I didn't know nothing about investments until I was 35 or so, and I just really stumbled into one penny stock, and it went from 50 cents to $4.70. And I've invested everything what I had in that single stock. I would never do it again. I would never recommend it anybody to do this. But it happened to me, and it worked really well. Of course, you have to, when you invest, to diversify. But I wouldn't diversify to more than 3-4 stocks. I would recommend to learn 3-4 stocks that you understand, that you know what company is doing or so on. Then you're watching the stock when it's ups and downs, a pattern of trading, and you're becoming specialist on just 3, 4 stocks. And you can trade them up and down, and you start to get confident, and you learn about this, and you understand the pattern and so on. So you can really develop this into something of your own. For example, I have a few stocks that I like presently it's Netflix, for example. It's Microsoft. Of course, Microsoft is probably the best stock there is one. Um, you can look into other stocks as well. For example, there are very risky stocks like Tesla, for example. I avoid Tesla because there are just very, very big ups and downs moves, and I really don't see how you can profit unless you are taking a huge risk. So I do avoid stocks like that. But then you have to really learn. You can try. You don't have to buy thousands of shares. You can buy 100 shares and just see how it works. Get into the groove. Get into the pattern. Get confidence, and then you can instead of 100 shares, you can buy 300 shares or so. So slowly get into the groove. Preservation of capital is very, very important. So if you see you took position in the stock, if you do it through options, it's even better. But options is the next level. So until you understand the stocks, you cannot do options. That's the problem. And by the way, it's a very, very good time to invest in South African stocks. There are a lot of gold companies. And in my predictions, gold will go really, really much higher from the level where it is now. Not everybody agrees with me, but I have an opinion because U.S. has issued so much debt that U.S. dollars probably will not sustain its level. It may go lower, and the moment the U.S. dollar goes lower, the gold is going higher because gold is traded in U.S. dollars, right? So it's good time now to look into South African gold miners. Um, that would be my advice.
Sound
Normally I don't give advices, but the way how it shapes now, I think probably it's a good one.
Well, I appreciate you, Sasha. It sounds like some great advice. So, Dean, it looks like we're going to have a run on the market in South African gold and things of that nature. So, looks like we might be having a run on that. So, folks might
Yeah,
be there grabbing that South African gold and things
I'm
along
taking notes.
is it going up today? Yeah,
that gold. That's a
yeah.
great thing. I want to thank both
Lovely.
Dean and Sasha for being on the show. I'm going to bring the
Thank you.
ambassador up, and definitely it was a great conversation, Dean. I know you've
Thank
been on
you.
Alexandria's show before, and now you've been on mine, but you do know that you're always welcome to come back on mine. I'm sure Alexandria's told you the same thing, but I did enjoy the conversation. Anything we can do to help get the word out about the Pride Factor, now that I know that it's the right name and everything, I will definitely encourage that word, and definitely we're going to see if we can't find you some entrepreneurs, not just from Memphis, New York, but also Durham, Raleigh, and a number of other cities where I've got friends at. Who knows? We might even find you some folks in Las Vegas and LA and Houston and a number of the other great cities, including Milwaukee, that I have got
Good.
connections at. So
And
hopefully
don't forget that on
we'll
Wednesday at 1 o'clock, please, you're welcome to the financial show. We are going to have very, very good discussions on the current situation in the market and very direct ways. So who is doing what? Shaquille is very good investor and he knows a lot about that. And my other guests are pretty good too. So I welcome you and please welcome to
Thank you.
participate. You're
Yep.
very
Thank
welcome.
you, Sasha. Thank you very much.
Yep. So
You
I'll
are.
Lovely.
appreciate you. I'll send you the links and everything in case you want to join Sasha's show. And like I said, you are definitely welcome to come back anytime that you want to talk about the Pride Factor. And once again, congratulations on your wedding and everything. Like I said, 58, still trying to find Miss Right. Sasha has got his other half. So I'm still trying to find my other half. But like you told me, Dean, it can happen at any time. Who knows?
Anytime.
Maybe I'll walk out the door and that person will be there.
There
So
we
I
go. There
appreciate
we
you
go.
being on the show and telling us so much about your own entrepreneurship voyage and journey, as well as what you're doing with the Pride Factor. So thanks once
Thank
again
you.
for
Thank you for
being.
having me. Really,
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me and allowing me the opportunity. It's lovely to when a young South African can get to voice his opinion on the international stage as such. So thank you, and Sasha, thank you for your tips of wisdom. I've got those written down.
Well,
I'm excited.
okay.
Lovely. Thanks, guys.
See you on Wednesday. Bye bye.
Yep.
See you on Wednesday.
Sounds good. Here's the ambassador, and we'll.
coronavirus से कैसे बचेंगे? ओके, हैंड होकर और ऐसे अपने खांसी जब आएगी तो ऐसे करेंगे अच्छू अच्छू और कोरोना वायरस को धन्यवाद हमारा म्यूजिक सुनने का.
Once again, I do want to thank Dean for joining us once again. As I was saying, I do appreciate having both the Dean Botha on, as well as Sasha Starr, who popped in for a minute to give us some great advice about the stock and the financial world and all of that. So definitely appreciated our main guest, Dean Botha, for being on, as well as Sasha Starr for popping in, one of our IBM.TV regulars. I'm getting ready to pop off. Got one more show to do for IBM.TV, and then we've got another more traditional podcast that we do off of this network called The Straight Talk with Dean and Marc. So still got a lot of engagement with the community to do. So I'm going to pop off. But as I did say, Dean, it was a great time having you on and everything. Matter of fact, I've got to see two Deans today. I've got to see Dean Botha at the beginning, and I'll close out the day with my podcast and Dean Geronimo. So we're going to go from Dean Botha to Dean Geronimo. So two Deans in the house. So it's just a great Dean thing. He does spell his name the wrong way, though, because I saw that you do yours more the Danny version, D-E-N-E, and he does more of the traditional version, D-E-A-N. And in his case, it's a stage name. It's not actually his birth name. Where it's name. But definitely, but it'll be Dean to Dean on my Monday days of activity. So I'm going to put on the announcement about what IBM.TV is all about, and then we'll get ready to go into the other show that we've got at around 4 o'clock. And then, like I said, if you get a chance, just follow us on IBM.TV. As you know, we have a number of great shows. Of course, Alexander is on Sundays. That's why I threw up the Super Sunday banner and everything, along with my friend Zach, who does the Funk Show with Zach. And of course, we've got Alexander, Sasha Starr's investment show on Wednesday. We've got a number of other great shows that happen on a regular basis. So there's all kinds of great programming that happens here on IBM.TV. I'm glad to be involved with them on a regular basis. So, like I said, Dean, thanks again for being on, and we're going to learn just a little bit about
Thanks for having me.
IBM.TV family and close out this particular edition of the radio show with Marc Lee.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.